All right, listen, because Tom Brady won his 7th Super Bowl, and now everyone's comparing him to Jordan with his 6th championship for the GOAT of all time in team sports, because you guys have forgotten to include Robert Horry in the conversation. You got Big Shot Bob mad at everybody now. Robert Horry, 7 NBA championships with multiple teams, is wondering why he is not included in the GOAT conversation. Again, all this because Brady won his 7th with the Bucks the other day. When I first heard that Robert Horry made that comment, I thought it was a joke. I think because sometimes, players, in retrospect, sometimes, laugh at themselves or make light of certain situations involving them. So I thought he was doing that. But then I realized that he was serious. Like he really wanted inclusion in the GOAT conversation compared to Jordan and Tom Brady. And now Robert Horry was, if you remember, he was a decent player, a solid player, not a Hall of Fame caliber player by any stretch, but he was a decent player. I think his 7 championships, he had the biggest impact in Houston, but other than Houston, I think it was more of a case of him being on the right team at the right time, more so than his contributions to the team. So again, I thought he was joking, but he's serious. 7 championships is nothing to sneeze at, but no, him being excluded from the GOAT conversation is not by accident. I don't think 7, come on, yeah, I get it, but Robert Horry, role player in a lot of those, but great career, no shade, a great career. And listen, this whole conversation is about Jordan versus Brady and whoever else you want to throw in that, Bill Russell. This is a team sport conversation. Because if you remove that from the equation, you look at like the totality of being a champion. I don't see how Serena is not that, but it's tough to compare what she does to a team sport. You can't really do it. So if you can, I think she's got to be, if not number 1, then way up there. All right. Calvin Johnson was recently announced that Calvin Johnson, Megatron, is going to be a Hall of Famer. He's being inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame on his first shot, his first attempt, first ballot. So congratulations. I'll just say, I was surprised at how easy he got in. I'm not gonna sit here and be like he's not a Hall of Famer. I would never do that because I don't know the work that he put in to get to that level. That's disrespectful. I'll just say I'm surprised that he got in and got in so soon. Because to me, relative to the other major sports, I'll say relative to basketball and baseball, I feel like football is toughest to get into the Hall of Fame in football compared to those other 2 sports, in my opinion. I don't have stats or numbers to back that up. It's just observing. It feels like that's the case to me. So when I hear that Calvin Johnson got in right away, I was surprised. Not because he wasn't a good player. He was a great player, obviously. He was the best at what he did. But he was the best at what he did for a relatively short period of time. And I feel like longevity should matter, especially when you don't have any hardware, any championships to add to your resume, which he doesn't have playing in Detroit for the years that he played. So he was great. He earned the nickname Megatron. Like when you say Megatron, you know what you're talking about. But again, it was for such a short period of time that I was surprised that he got in so soon. Frankly, I was surprised that he got in at all. Again, I'm not saying that he's not a Hall of Fame player. I'm just surprised. And when I think about Calvin Johnson getting in, what comes to mind to me is Tracy McGrady in the NBA. Like that is the comparison. Like Tracy McGrady is a Hall of Famer. Same thing, great player, but great player for a relatively short period of time. So when T-Mac got in, I was surprised. So again, not saying these guys aren't good at what they do. I'm just saying I'm surprised relative to what they did and the time period for which they did it. Sticking with the NFL, J.J. Watt was recently released from the Texans, and he got in front of the news. He got in front of the news and said, like he posted a video on Twitter, I believe it was, announcing that he went to the owners of the team and he asked for his release and he was granted it. And I'm reading between the lines, I'm putting 2 and 2 together that they allowed him to break the news. They allowed him to go on Twitter and announce it to the world before they put out a statement, before the team put out a statement. He earned that much given what he's done for the team and his time there. That's great and all, but I don't think J.J. Watt is fooling anybody. He's not fooling me. I feel like J.J. Watt was going to get his release whether he asked for it or not. You know, he's getting up there a little bit in age. He's a great player, obviously. Defensive player of the year and all that stuff. One of the best, D linemen ever. He would have gotten it because he's not the player that he once was because, again, Father Time catches up to everybody, especially in football. When you don't play the quarterback position, it catches up to you. So, like the spin is like, oh, I asked to be released. And like the video that he put out, he didn't necessarily talk about beef that he has with the organization, which is usually why players ask for a release because they're beefing with the organization. He spoke highly of the organization. So you asking for your release doesn't make sense to me because you didn't talk about any ill will that you have towards the team. It was just a save your face type of deal. He was going to get released anyway. They just did him a favor, did him a solid by saying, hey, you announced it the way you want to. We're going to cut you anyway because you're not the player you were. But we owe it to you to announce it the way you want to, and they did that. That's what it was. That's what I think it was. So all the other stuff is smoke screen. It's the right thing for the team to do, but it wasn't necessarily because he was unhappy and they obliged to his demand. No, you're going to get cut anyway. But now the other side of that is what's up with Deshaun Watson because he is allegedly asking for his trade, right? So what's going on with that? See, that's why it doesn't make any sense because Deshaun Watson is an ascending superstar, so they're less likely to get rid of him, whereas J.J. Watt is on the decline, so they're like, we'll holler at you. So the NBA is going to have an AllStar Game this year, and that's much to the chagrin of a lot of players, notably LeBron, Giannis, De'Aaron Fox, anybody, any NBA player that they put a microphone in front of their face is saying, I don't know why we're having an All-Star Game. And when the NBA first began their season and they said it's going to start a little bit late, December 22nd, a few days before Christmas, they said one of the casualties of a shortened 72-game season would have to be the All-Star Weekend. And just me as an NBA fan, I'm like, man, and like the season is not the season without NBA All-Star Weekend. If you're like me, that's NBA All-Star Weekend. That's like you look forward to that. Even from a kid up to my age now, you just look forward to that. But I get it. Pandemic, shortened season. They're trying to conclude the season before the Olympics start, so that these guys can play in the Olympics. So I'm torn. From a fan perspective, I do want to see it. But obviously, these guys don't want to go because it's a pandemic. It's going to be shortened. The NBA is doing it for monetary reasons. They're taking a monetary hit because there's no fans and all the other good stuff. That's why they're doing it. And the other objectives and incentives from a broader financial perspective, why they're having an NBA All-Star Weekend. Me sitting here talking to this camera as an NBA fan, I want the All-Star Weekend. I want it to be done safely, given it's a pandemic. But if I'm them, if I'm LeBron and all those guys, yeah, I don't want to play either. So I can see it both ways. All right, so Marc Cuban said that the Mavericks will no longer play the national anthem at their home games. And then like a few days later, the NBA said, oh, yes, you will. They put out a statement and said, yes, you will. I don't know what you're talking about, but you're going to play this national anthem at these home games. I don't know why Marc Cuban decided to announce that. He should have just done it. Just do it. Just stop playing it. Don't make any announcement because you're going to bring attention towards it. And for the NBA to react the way in which they did, it caught people off guard because why would you make that stance? Allow these teams to do whatever it is they want to do. It just seems contradictory given the NBA stands in the bubble, the messaging that they put out. And to do this now, to say you will play the national anthem, it just seems contradictory because you allowed all the players to take a knee during the national anthem in the coaching staff. So it's like weird. I'm like torn. But like with Marc Cuban, he's made a 180. Remember a few years ago he made this comment?
I mean, we're all prejudiced in one way or the other. If I see a black kid in a hoodie and it's late at night, I'm walking to the other side of the street. And if on that side of the street there's a guy that has tattoos all over his face, white guy, bald head, tattoos everywhere, I'm walking back to the other side of the street. And the list goes on of stereotypes that we all live up to and are fearful of.
And then ever since then, he's been almost backpedaling to get back within the good graces of probably his black players. right? A lot of black players are probably looking at him as the owner of the team, like, what did that comment even mean? And ever since then, he has been slowly chipping away at, like, in my opinion, at getting back in the good graces. Because that comment seemed a little bit off the wall to me. Not even that. He also made this comment. So this was, I feel like this is what, another step in Marc Cuban's attempt to, get back into good graces. It's working because a lot of people don't even remember those two clips that I'm talking about. But you know what? I remember them.